the exception of the Clementi grand piano, which Sarah played for you earlier, we have played exclusively Viennese instruments up to this point in today's recital. The Pleyel is a French piano, but is more typical of the English school of piano building than of the Viennese. The heavier action and its rich, mellow tone quality are definitely English and contrast considerably with the light and delicate, bright tone color of the Viennese instruments. Interestingly, though, because the dampers are longer than those found in pianos of the English school, there is less aftersound and correspondingly less resonance than would be in the case of an English grand piano built in the same period. The Ballade, composed and completed between 1835 and 1836, has been a real challenge for me on the Pleyel, after having learned it and played it for quite some time on the modern grand. Although the action is not truly heavier than that of the modern grand, the response and sensitivity of the key drop is definitely different, difficult to gauge, and very unpredictable for me. This certainly affects the tricky, fast arpeggiations and runs, which there are a lot of in the Ballade. However, the melodic passages in the Ballade are beautifully represented by the warm and intimate tone colors which the Pleyel can produce. I have also found it fascinating to observe the pedal markings in my edition of the score, the Paderewski edition, when those indications are followed exactly in a rendition of the Ballade on the Pleyel. I believe the markings in my score to be quite true to Chopin's preferences, and I have often found them to be difficult to follow precisely on the modern grand. Often, in those circumstances, there is too much buildup of overtones, and therefore too much of a blur, or conversely, the pedal indications don't contribute to connecting the sound in ways that represent what I believe is meant from the clearly marked phrasing. Part of this situation is due to the type of pedaling which is most effective on the modern grand, but opposed to Chopin's markings. However, it does seem that the indications for pedaling in the score make much more sense when played on a Pleyel, and I will do my best to adhere to them as I perform the Ballade. But first, let me explain what pedaling on the modern grand is like as opposed to what is marked in the score. On the modern grand, I would use a technique called syncopated or linked pedal. That means play the note first, then quickly change the pedal immediately after the note is played. The damping of the Pleyel, because it's different than the damping of the modern grand, does not require this type of technique to be used. I've tried to follow Chopin's markings of the pedals, but it's been really, really hard and I'm not used to it. So for today, I'm just going to try to play the pedal as cleanly and clearly as possible.